Tennessee Homestead. How the heck are you today? I'm feeling pretty good myself now. Yeah. It appears that while I was out west, even though took masks along, did all that kind of fun stuff, and most everybody that was involved, because wanted you to wear masks and all this. So you was, kind of stayed away from one another a bit. Things of this nature. When I came home, it started running through and making some videos. I really was I thought it was from the trip. I thought, man, you're getting old, dude. And I'm just tired. Thought I'd kicked up my allergies and out west, because the desert will do that to you. Had a lot of coughing and hacking and carrying on. And then felt like I was running a low-grade fever. I thought, well, maybe it's time to take your happy tush in and make sure that's all it is. And found out, no, it wasn't. Yours truly here had contacted the, let's see what we're going to call it here without YouTube banning this, Kung Flu. The Kung Flu. How's that? And they put me on some medication. And I'd spent a day or so kind of laying around up there at the hospital, and they cut me loose. And I had to finish up this regimen of pills, which was a few days worth, and then go back in and get retested. So, yeah, that's what I've been. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good now. But yeah, I'm in my mid-60s, man. It's, in one of those higher risk categories, so you don't want to play with the stuff, right? All that aside, I tried making a few videos while I was sitting around the house, but, I was coughing pretty bad, and I did one 18-minute video that by the time I edited out all the coughing, I was down to about 6 minutes, and it's like, okay, this is silly. Just let it go. Yeah, I got through that, and went back and got my retest, and did the blood test kind of thing, and then did a swab. Swab thing I haven't got the results back on yet, but the guy told me, he says, the blood test usually will tell you. And I did test positive for having the antibodies, which means usually you've whipped it. They didn't see any of the virus itself. It was all just antibodies. So, yeah, hopefully I'm good. Tested negative for the disease. Tested with positive for having the antibodies to it, which tells them, and that's what the doctor said, just kind of tells them, yeah, you had it, and you're fine, okay? So, did what the doctor said. But it was in that time frame, I had a lot of time to do a lot of research and things of this nature. I had noticed that here in this county, all through this whole mess, we had zero fatalities. Zero fatalities. And in the time that I was out in the West Coast and back again, that had jumped up to 13. In discovering that, when I went back in for this last test, me and the doctor got to doing a little talking. We only got one hospital in the county, okay? And I was asking him, number one was wearing masks, was social distancing, how do you end up with this stuff? And he kind of laughed. He said, it is kind of airborne. He said, the masks help if you have it and you're coughing outward to keep, because of the moisture and so forth when you cough, it traps it in the lining. He said, but as that dries, if that mask dries out, he said, it passes right through the mask. I said, kind of the, trying to use a chain link fence to keep out mosquitoes? He said, exactly. He said, it's that small. He said, so if your mask is dry and you exhale and you've got the virus on the fibers, he said, you can dislodge it and literally blow it out. He said, the good thing is that usually wearing the masks, the perspiration and moisture from your breath keeps it trapped. I said, so it doesn't help coming the other direction? He said, no, not really. He said, it really does. He said, the virus is too small. He said, like you said, trying to use a chain link fence to keep out mosquitoes. It's not going to work. Virus, I guess, is very, 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 very small. Okay. He said, he said, if you use like a respirator system, something like that, he said it might be okay. He says, but really, he said, the mask thing is kind of a, coin toss. He said, that's why you got so many doctors say, yeah, it'll work. No, it won't work. He said, nobody can come to a firm conclusion on this. He said, my attitude is, you want to wear the mask, wear the mask. He said, you may make the people around you feel more comfortable. How do I stay it? I told him about seeing these 13 fatalities in the county. So what did you guys have while I was away? Some kind of pandemic going on here? And he started laughing because our case number didn't go up. Our hospitalization numbers didn't go up. And he says, you do know that in this county we have 4 fairly large nursing homes. Well, no, I wasn't aware of that. I said, no, a couple of them, but I didn't know we had 4 of them. He said, yeah. He said, these were all deaths coming out of the nursing homes. I said, so they got it in nursing homes real bad? He said, to be honest with you, he said, we're not sure what these are. He said, but the CDC, he said, if you have anybody passing away, he said, they're dumping the numbers on your counties. He said, it's something they started a while back. Not sure why. He said, but he said, I'm the fellow who filled out the certificates. He said, and it was not listed on there as a Kung Flu death. He said, I think 2 of them was just congestive heart failure, and there was a couple other things. And I said, really? He said, yeah, so how'd they get in these figures? He said, you tell me. He said, but it's happening everywhere. To tell you my bout with it, now I'm in my mid-60s, tired. I did get tired for a few days, really tired. I could slept all day long, really. I had a couple of mornings, I kind of had a raspy throat, but I'm not sure whether that was part of it or whether it was just from coughing through the night. Did cough a lot. My biggest concern was it hit me with kind of the symptoms more like I had when I had walking pneumonia. And that's one of the things that sent me to the doctors. I've had walking pneumonia in the past. It's a reoccurring disease that keeps coming back at you. And you need to get on antibiotics and so forth to get over it. And that's what I thought I had again. But turns out, no, it wasn't. So, yeah. So I can say I'm now can put myself in the list of survivors. I just said that word. I'll have to edit that out. So if there's a little blank before survivors, you'll understand. But it kind of amazed me that he was like, no, I'm the guy that fills out death certificates around here. He said, I'll tell you right now. He said, nah. He said, but yeah, he said, we've had about 13 people pass away out of nursing homes in the past 2 weeks. He said, one, he said, for sure it was a case of pneumonia. He said, and that's what they were hospitalized for. He says, and they tested negative. He said, so I don't know how that one got lumped in there. He said, but somehow it did. He said, maybe it's just easier now for the CDC to go, well, they died, so got to be that. I don't know, and so kind of really, but yeah, that's the reason you're seeing these numbers fluctuate around. I don't know why I got this funny feeling it has something to do with I don't know elections, trying to make it look like But like I said, I'm not in the best shape and the best health. And it was, as far as the flu, probably the mildest case I've ever had of the flu of any sort. It was not that big of a deal. Okay. So, to see that the president worked through he did a little better job than me, apparently, because he was up and about in just a couple of days. Mine had me down for a few days. Not down, but just droopy, So, it's not to say that, wear masks, don't wear masks. I've got doctors on both sides of that fences, and that's what he said too. He said, really, He said it works out to this. In some situations, the mask will work. Some situations, the mask won't work. He said, yeah, it's not that big a deal to wear one. He said, especially if you're in public. He said, so that's kind of my stance. He said, it makes people around you feel really safe. He said, so for that. So that's all on that topic. But yeah, I'm doing fine. Okay. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, there's stuff that popped up over this Hunter Biden stuff. I guess is starting to come out. It is really concerning that you have, and it's showing how vulnerable we are to social media. What they're doing with this Hunter Biden story is appalling. To the point that's it. Matter of fact, today I'm working on right now getting my Parler account set up, and I'm taking down Facebook and Twitter. I'm done. I have no desire to deal with them anymore. You know, the New York Post is a pretty reputable newspaper. Probably as you can say as reputable as any of these other newspapers. They're trying to say that information about Hunter was hacked, and wasn't hacked. The dumb butt left his computer there and didn't go back and pick it up after being, them trying to contact him. I guess he changed cell phone numbers or whatever. I know most places I've taken my computers to, if you don't pick them up within about 30 days, you just lost your computer, man. They're going to sell it. They're going to part it out. They're going to do whatever they want with it. Okay? Otherwise, you're going to have a stack of people's computers sitting around there forever. So this guy taking possession of that computer and that hard drive, no hacking to it. I mean, it's kind of difficult to hack something you got in your physical possession. And the guy did think that something was wrong with what he was seeing on there. So there you go. Irregardless, you've got Joe Biden, who got out on I don't remember what conference he was at, bragging about getting a Ukrainian prosecutor fired by telling them that his $1 billion loan was going to disappear if they didn't fire him, showing how much clout he had. And then all this other that falls right in line with, he had this prosecutor that was going after the company that was paying his boy, I've heard both $50,000 a month, $85,000 a month, that suddenly, that prosecutor got fired. Now they're back prosecuting this company because Trump got involved and told them, why did that stop? And he was told the same story. Talk about quid pro quo that they were trying to impeach the president for. Yeah. Keep it in mind, Republicans, if Biden should win, yeah, you got a heck of a lot more facts and figures than they have. Okay? Of course, that leaves us with Ms. Harris, which, that woman's a piece of work, man. She is a piece of work. But, yeah, from to pull down Trump's Twitter account because he reposted it, that's just wrong, man. In New York Post, they pulled their account. Press secretary for the White House, they pulled her account. That's ridiculous. Okay? And if these social media accounts wanted to see they're all in now for Biden to win, because if Biden doesn't win, you can bet there's going to be some major changes done to the publisher status of these social media companies, which would be a good thing. Okay, if they're going to play this game of, we're going to edit and tell you what you can and cannot have, and I can tell you firsthand, folks, when it comes to political stuff, it is getting real tough, even out here on YouTube. Okay, they're hammering a lot of folks out here. Okay, yours truly has gotten beat up several times on it. Most times, if I can get a human review, they'll reset it. I have had about a handful of videos that you just couldn't get them to do anything with it, and they couldn't give you a good reason for why. You know? So, yeah. But it does bring us to the point that social media has gotten too much a handle on this country. It really has. And people need to be very cautious of what they're having and what they're taking off of social media. Because if you've got the right-leaning political agenda, you're golden. You can say anything you want. If you don't, then they're going to censor you and censor you hard. You know, they've had investigations where I believe it was Veritas that was talking to some of the people at Facebook who said, oh yeah, they can ban you without you knowing you're banned. Okay? More or less, you look at your account and everything looks fine in La La Land. The only thing is your posts can't go out anywhere. Nobody can see what's really going on in your account. Things of this nature. So be advised. And now that they're trying to use social media to sway an election, there's some laws against that. And I think these social media accounts need to be held accountable for that. Especially when you start doing things like banning the president's accounts. All right, you're asking for trouble. You better hope that man gets voted out of office. Otherwise, he's going to take you apart. And it probably needs to happen. A lot of the problem with the youth and so forth today is this Twitter nonsense and so forth. I have been really watching these quote-unquote journalism companies, got their little blue trusted check mark kind of stuff, and they're spewing all kinds of garbage out there. I've also been doing more fact-checking. And it is totally amazing, some of the stuff that will either come back as, it could be true, or we can't figure out one way or the other. A lot of it is that. Listen, when I've seen the videotape where it shows he didn't say that, okay, and they're having a problem fact-checking that, really? So let's smarten up a little bit here. Hope everybody's headed to the polls. Done my bit. We had early voting, and went out and got that taken care of. It's important. And the double speak that they're using on all this political nonsense that has a lot of people confused is the Democrats, we've used mail-in ballots, for the military and for people who are going to be out of town and for years, forever. So what's the president talking about? Military and so forth, they vote via absentee ballot, not vote mail ballots. Because vote mail ballots have a tendency to go to people that haven't been even in your state for decades. There was a lot going around back in last election even, of people who they had went and slapped their hands of, hey, you voted in New York and you voted in Florida. And they stand there and go, I haven't been back to New York in 10 years. I live in Florida. This is where I vote. This is where I'm registered to vote. New York never changed their voting rules. And somebody used it. Which tells me there's probably a little fraud going on. So keep that in mind. Those ballot boxes at the polling places, they're pretty I mean, you've heard people say they can even be hacked, which I'm sure is possible. But yeah, go to the polls, get it done. It's too late. I know here in Tennessee, and I don't know about all states, but here in Tennessee, you can no longer get absentee ballots. It's too close to the election. At this point, you got really one option, and that's to go to the polls. One of the things that I didn't like with what the Democrats were doing was they were trying to force down people's throats, different states' throats, this mail-in voting. And they tried to force Tennessee to do mail-in voting. And also wanted us to do away with our ID required at the polling places. And Tennessee wouldn't budge. And a lot of other states refused to budge. Okay? These, contrary to what the Democrats say, is, oh, if you require them to have an ID, that's voter suppression. No, it's not. No, it's not. Okay? And it's this simple. You can't get public aid without an ID. You can't get on an airplane without an ID. You know, all these different things you have to have an ID for. Okay? It's not discriminating against anyone. All right? So let's put the nonsense off to the side. Okay? You're not discriminating against people, but you are helping to keep your elections cleaner. I personally would like to see every state have to go to that. We would suddenly see a big drop in voter rolls, I can assure you. Not because it's disenfranchising voters, it's because it's blocking illegals. I lived in Vegas for a lot of years. I've lived in some of these blue states over a lot of years, and I can tell you right now, you'll see a lot of illegal immigrants voting in your elections in these states. That's where I get ticked. It's bad enough that they're here illegally, but when they're trying to sway the politics of this country to get people in office that side with their cause, I have a problem with that. Okay? So, if you're living in one of those states, you might want to wake up and start going, do I really want, some illegal alien canceling out my, as a U.S. citizen's vote? Because they want freebies, or they want, to be made a citizen. No, it's not right. And that needs to stop. And I think some very harsh penalties need to accompany that. Okay? Long prison terms. Catch you an illegal voting in our election. They ought to give them 20, 25 years and then kick them out of the country. That kind of nonsense needs to stop. Already this year, they have found a lot of areas where they've got more registered voters than people. How's that happen? Not going to go any further on this. Get to the polls. Make your vote be known no matter who it's for. Anyway, enough of all the politics. Hopefully we get back on regular schedule. I do have one coming out this week. Sorry about last week, but I just did not feel up to it. But this week I've got a video coming up that you really, if you're into cattle, you're going to want to see this one. Because it has got to be my favorite pick for a cow. Okay? While I love my cattle, this one's outstripped it. Okay? And want to give you all the reasons why. And help you out with something like that. It may be a very good breed for most of the areas of this country. So, look forward to getting that one to you. Hopefully get back on track here. But so far I'm feeling pretty good. So we'll start getting more videos up. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend, and I hope you have a real productive week. We'll talk to you real soon.